Hey, welcome into NFL Live with breaking news out of the Mile High City. Broncos fans hope they've found their quarterback of the future and first-round pick Bo Nix. The QB with more college starts than any NCAA player ever has been named Denver starter for Week 1 in Seattle by Coach Sean Payton.
I want to talk real quick about the quarterback position. You guys have been real patient. I understand, and respect that process for you, and for us, we've had a process. So, look, Bo Nix is going to be our starting quarterback. He's been outstanding. Obviously, there's a ton of room for growth. There's a lot of things that he needs to work on.
It was really cool. It's not every day to get that news, but obviously, as a room, we've been working hard, and putting a lot of good things on film, putting a lot of good things, on the practice field. And so to get that news is definitely a great thing. And so I'm super excited and, ready to get back to work again and go back to it and start again.
Nix will be only the second rookie QB to make a start with Sean Payton as head coach. Ian Book's the other. And Nix has earned this spot. He's been one of the most effective quarterbacks in the league this preseason, ranking in the top 3 in completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio, and passer rating amongst players with at least 20 pass attempts. And now welcome into our NFL Live studios along with Mike Tannenbaum and Jeff Darlington. I'm Phil Murphy, Booger McFarland, Sal Paolantonio joining us shortly. But Jeff, this news is breaking but not necessarily surprising with how Bo Nix has played. What more can you tell us about Denver's decision to start him in Week 1?
Well, I can tell you that Sean Payton said that the media was being patient. This required patience from Sean Payton because you knew he wanted to scream from the rooftops that he found his guy. And he did find his guy, even earlier in this training camp. This is one of those great camp stories that we always kind of thirst over because Bo Nix won this job. He went in there and took it over. This is a team that had Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham seemingly competing for maybe that Week 1 starter job while Bo Nix got ready. Nix went in there and said, no, I'm going to show you why this is going to be my job. So it's one of those maybe rare stories where a rookie is not being forced into the role that he has taken, but instead earned that role through the play that he has showed both in practices and in camp. Very much Sean Payton feels like he has found his point guard to run his offense.
Yeah, not common for a rookie to start under Sean Payton, not common for a rookie to start in Denver, Mike. This is the first Broncos QB to start in Week 1 since John Elway 40 years ago. What are your expectations for this offense in year 1 with Nix as the starter?
Phil, I think Jeff used the right term when he talked about point guard. This is going to be the New Orleans Saints offense with Drew Brees. Quick passing, look for guys like Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton to have really meaningful participation with run after catch in the passing game. Javonte Williams will get a ton of opportunities, not only running, but also in the passing game. And if they have success, Bo Nix is a better athlete than people realize. The success will come down to his ability to get rid of the ball quickly and then make plays with his feet. Remember, he had a transcendent year at Oregon after transferring from Auburn with 45 touchdown passes. And if we go back to the draft back in April, a lot of people pre-draft thought Bo Nix was Sean Payton's guy. Turned out that was the case. He was one of the 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round. So I think this is a decision that's been a long time making. And I think what Sean Payton is hoping is this will look a lot and feel a lot like those great Saint offenses with Bo Nix growing into Drew Brees' role.
Tua Tagovailoa's teammates were not surprised by his rather pointed comments about his former head coach, Brian Flores. They said they understand what he went through, they understand why he said what he said, and that they have his back. Listen to this.
I know from previous conversations, some years back that he was going through a rough time, rough patch, but honestly, that's in the wind. And he made those comments, knowing that he just wants to get it out there. That's his big thing, and he doesn't talk that much. So when he does speak, it's with some volume.
Any concern, Mike, that it will be a distraction for your football team?
Absolutely not.
Why not? Just because the way you know your team?
Yeah, I think, just the fact of you can't, in this world or in this league on a football team, you can't hide. And if your mind's somewhere else, you may not tell me, but you'll show me.
McDaniel went on to say to me that he's got a lot of players on this team that if they see another player is distracted, that they have the ability and the moral authority to step in as leaders and make sure that that distraction does not take place. The curious thing about what Tagovailoa said was not what he said, but the timing of what he said, right? Because Stephen Ross, the owner, just said that this team has Super Bowl aspirations / expectations. He got the big contract in the offseason, $200 million plus. Brian Flores is gone. He's up in Minnesota. He's gone for 2 years. So it's all about the timing. Now, Tagovailoa did not talk today. He was not scheduled to speak this week, according to the Dolphins. He is scheduled to speak next week. So I'm sure one of the questions he's going to get is why now? Why speak up now about Brian Flores?
Yeah, we'll readdress that next week, Sal. Thanks so much for your reporting. Tua trying to build on a season in which he led the NFL in passing yards, but it's been a night and day difference for Tua since Mike McDaniel took over as head coach in 2022. In that time, Tua ranks top 5 in the NFL in total QBR, yards per attempt, and passing touchdowns, with numbers all distinctly better than his first 2 seasons, which of course came under Brian Flores. Booger McFarland joining us now. But Jeff, I want to go to you first. You are very close to this situation in Miami. What's been your takeaway from all this?
I would just say that I think the timing of it, to Sal's point, is probably the most peculiar part. And perhaps it simply is Tua Tagovailoa feeling as comfortable in his own skin as ever, between the fact that he has a coach who empowers him and now a contract that also empowers him. But it's not really up for us to decide why Tua chose right now. It's merely about, talking about what he said. And I will say this. When Brian Flores was fired, this was a main part of the reason why the Dolphins chose to fire him. Stephen Ross, the team owner, even pulled Tua aside afterwards and said, "We did not do right by you with Brian Flores. We are going to get this right." Now, the one thing I'd finally add on this is I keep hearing this distinction made about, some coaches coach hard. I would say when it comes to Tua, this is not merely about him just taking hard coaching. He was coached under Nick Saban. I think that he is capable of taking hard coaching. Brian Flores, before Tua arrived and after he was drafted, did not want Tua Tagovailoa as his quarterback. It was not simply hard coaching. It was a coach who did not want Tua on his team.
Yeah, Jeff, and I think that's what we all realize. And I give Brian Flores a lot of credit, not for doing what he did and what he said and what he texted Tua, but for understanding that he's got to change. If you listen to his comments, he talked about that Tua's words, that he was a terrible person. Those words hurt him. And I think that Brian Flores understands now that how he coached Tua, particularly how he coached the quarterback position, is not how you can coach certain guys. And I think he's got to realize that. Now, if it were me, a defensive tackle, yeah, you probably could have said that to me, because my psyche is not predicated likely on my mental mind state and how I play. I'm trying to go out, see ball, hit ball. But when you play a quarterback position that is predicated on thinking and processing information, you need confidence. And Tua needed that. And he didn't get that from Brian Flores. So hopefully when this is all said and done, Tua understands that there was no harm intended, that Brian Flores was really trying to trying to coach him really, really hard, and that didn't work with Tua. And if you're Brian Flores, I truly hope that you've learned that there's more than one way to coach certain players. And I think now, especially in 2024, with this younger and newer generation, you have to do things differently.
Yeah, I see things largely the same way Booger does, in terms of, I was really impressed by how Brian Flores handled it. He owned it and said, hey, I have to get better. And that was very impressive. That's indicative of a growth mindset. And I had the privilege of working with Rex Ryan amongst many coaches in my career. And he always used the saying, players don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think what Coach Flores is going to learn is that there's a lot of different ways to reach different players. And if he could go back 4 or 5 years and restart his relationship with Tua, maybe invest in that relationship before you try to coach him hard. And I think what we'll see is a better Brian Flores moving forward. And I think the way he handled the press conference yesterday was a really good first start.
You know, the only thing I'd say about that is if Brian Flores was surprised about Tua Tagovailoa's comments or feelings, he has had his head in the sand since the moment he was fired. It's part of the reason that he was fired. His record did not merit him to be fired. It was his treatment of Tua Tagovailoa, large in part, which I had reported at the time. If you're fired because of your treatment towards somebody, and then 2 years later you act surprised by that, that's my only, I would say, question about that. This is not a surprise to Brian Flores. Yes, hopefully it is a teachable moment, but it should have been a teachable moment the second he was fired for his treatment of a player.
Margins we know.
Yeah, Jeff, listen, I would definitely agree with you on that. I don't know if B-Flow was surprised by it, maybe of the timing that it came out now, and I don't really think that Tua meant to say it. I think Tua was asked a question, and he answered Dan Labertar's question honestly. And for me, I give Tua a lot of credit for answering the question honestly. I don't think B-Flow was surprised that it came out, which is probably why he didn't come out and refute it, because he knows it happened. He tried to come out, be remorseful, say, you know what, Tua, I hope things are going well. I'm happy for him now. And I think to Mike T's point, that's a growth mindset, understanding what happened. I'm not going to dispute Tua's words.